and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Skovron, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can't take Boston at minus 110. I don't see the value in it, right? You're getting minus money. If Boston were to turn around and become even money or a plus 105 or plus 110, yeah, I can understand you want to take that. So because of the value at 5.5 to 1, I got to like the Knicks and their chances of coming out of the East.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's is offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome in. A very happy Friday to you. Valentine's Day, in fact, as we get ready, of course, for a huge weekend, all-star weekend in the NBA. And you can almost say the same thing regarding what's happening in college basketball, as one of the rarest of rare things that we've got heading into this weekend is a number 1 versus a number 2 during the regular season and from the same conference as Alabama. Number 2 taking on number 1 to Auburn. And boy, oh boy, what a great litmus test this is going to be, since they expanded to 64 teams back in 1985-86 there for March Madness. It's only happened 16 times that we've gotten during the regular season a 1 versus number 2. The last time it happened, 2021, in fact, Gonzaga was number 1, UCLA was number 2, and the Zags absolutely steamrolled the Bruins in that one. But only 8 times has it ever happened where a 1 plays a 2 in the regular season from the same conference. So we've got a lot to look forward to in college hoops tomorrow, not to mention an interesting one here tonight we're going to talk about in just a few, as, of course, the NBA getting ready for their All-Star weekend. We've got the Rising Stars Challenge tonight. We've got a new format, which many people are still trying to wrap their head around how this is all going to work, but have no fear. That's why we are here. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by once again, as we've got plenty of hoops talk here with the All-Star game kicking off June night. We will have, of course, the customary 3-point contest, the dunk contest tomorrow, as well as the skills challenge, which not a every year kind of situation. It's kind of new to the All-Star weekend. Actually kind of cool the way they have it set up. But and of course, Sunday we will have that new format of 4 teams battling in some sort of mini tournament in which, well, let's be honest, most people won't watch anyway. But we'll see if we can find whether it's Team Shaq, Team Chuck, Team Kenny, or Team Candace. I have no idea how that came to be, but Team Candace, which one will prevail? And as you can see, Team Shaq seems to be the overwhelming favorite at even money. But is there any sort of value with backing them? Well, we'll go over the lineups coming up this hour here, and we'll see if we can find maybe an angle or two worth taking a look at. I will say this. I think the All-Star Weekend with the dunk contest, where we've got a actual three-peat possibly happening here with Max McClung, of course, who is a two-time dunk competition winner, 6'2", doesn't play in the NBA, but he is on a two-way contract with the Orlando Magic, does play in the G League, but it doesn't matter. When you're 6'2" and you jump over people like Shaq, people are going to notice. And boy, did they notice last year. They noticed the year prior, and that is why Max is a minus $2 heavy favorite to win it for a record third time. It's only happened one time prior in the history of the dunk competition. That was good old Nate Robinson before he was getting knocked out by Jake Paul in what was, well, I don't even know what that was. But there was a time where he could actually hoop it up a little bit. And he, too, coming in at a paltry 5'11", which, again, when you're 5'11", 6'2", and you can be pretty impressive in the dunk competition, because what you look like you're doing is just going to be that much more exaggerated than anybody that is 6'9", 6'10", 6'8", trying to do it. So will we get it for a third year? The market seems to think so. And then also going for the three-peat is Dame Lillard in the three-point competition. He, too, has just owned this over the last couple of All-Star games. Can he do it again? Darius Garland right there, as well as former finalist there, Buddy Hield, in the three-point competition. Norm Powell, who has many people think has been slighted, having the career year with the LA Clippers, but unfortunately was snubbed for the All-Star game. But he does have an opportunity here in the three-point competition to kind of rub it in everybody's faces, as not only he, but a lot of people feel like it was probably the biggest snub there. He'll have an opportunity, of course, to stick it to everybody here by winning this and denying Dame Lillard a third consecutive three-point competition championship here. But there's a lot of good people in this competition this year. Don't sleep on Tyler Hero, another one, the Miami Heat, who had a great 3 of 14 game last night for the Heat as they completely folded down the stretch once again and could not win a game heading into the All-Star break. Instead, they are now riding a 4-game losing streak. But don't blame Tyler Hero, who had 40 last night and still only managed to go 3 of 14 from 3. But he is having a career year from three-point range this year, averaging about 38.5% on the season. Boy, if he gets hot at 5-1, 6-1, may not be a bad look here. And of course, New York Knicks fans will be concentrating on Jalen Brunson, who will also participate in the three-point contest. Should be interesting. I think tomorrow is going to offer us a fun time. There will be no three-point competition between Ionescu and, of course, Steph Curry. That seems to have been axed last minute, but we'll have plenty of opportunities to have fun tomorrow, make a few bets, and see if we can't cash a couple of tickets. But tonight, it's going to be all about the rookies and the rising stars here tonight. That, too, should be a lot of fun because we've got a lot. The youth of the NBA and the guys that they have coming up and playing in this competition here tonight, some great, and I mean absolutely great players that if you have not had a chance to see these guys play, buckle up. It's going to be a lot of fun to see the Rising Star competition here tonight. We also have that big college basketball game tonight here on a light slate, 14 games total here today, but all eyes are going to be in the Big Ten as UCLA, who is yet to win a game in the Central or Eastern time zone, well, they'll have an opportunity taking on Indiana at Indiana, and will they be able to get it done? I don't know. 0-5 so far in that time zone, but can UCLA, coming off a tough loss, and Indiana coming off a unbelievable win on the road against Michigan State, can they hold home court? We got a lot to talk about in that game, but let's not forget, we've got basketball. We've got, of course, the NHL, and we've got the PGA. A lot going on out in the Genesis. We'll talk about it next here on Game Time Decisions.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Friday. I'm Joe Raineri. Certainly appreciate you taking the time to stop by and hang with us as we get ready for All-Star Weekend in the NBA, a monster weekend in college basketball. But let's not forget, we're about T-minus, so I don't know, about maybe 3-4 weeks away from the first major on the PGA Tour. But we got to kind of get these guys on the East Coast because right now they're hanging out on the West Coast. And we've got the Genesis in full effect here. And wouldn't you know it, death, taxes, and a Scotty Scheffler lead right now as the second round still underway at Torrey Pines. And who better to talk with than our good friend Smiley Kaufman joining us here on this Friday. And Smiley, here it is, rinse and repeat, right? It's a Friday. We've got kind of moving day, and we've got Scotty Scheffler doing what he does best. 5 under, I think, so far. -7, tied with Davis Thompson. Not a shock. I'd like to say I'm shocked, but not a shock.
Yeah, he's back, Joe. He is back, right? I think we all we're just waiting for Scotty just to kind of break out of the Christmas hangover, if you will, from the surgery he had to have from that accident where he cut his hand open. Now he's had a couple starts underneath him. He actually talked about after the round yesterday, Joe. He was saying that his ball striking, mainly off of the tee, was not up to what his standard has been over the last couple years. And so typically when when Scotty played poorly, it was because of the putter. And so the last week when he played, it's been really more off of the tee. So to see that kind of come back and his putter be at a very high level, it's like, how do you beat this guy?
Yeah, well, most people don't. That's the problem here. But we have seen some guys make a little bit of a move here. I mean, the conditions were awful yesterday. We know that. Still a little breezy out there. Not great today, but Ludwig Aberg, who, unfortunately ended up getting sick in that last tournament there, but looks like he might be getting his legs under him now. 6 under on the day, 4 under for the tournament. Very dangerous heading into the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, shooting 6 under on this golf course is an incredible round. And really, just over the last 2 weeks, he has been sick. I've spoken with many guys just saying how under the weather he has looked. And if you watch the Farmers, which is at this same golf course that they're playing this week due to the wildfires that had to move the golf course from Rib to Torrey Pines, he was having a great week. He shot 9 under on the North Course and I felt like the front runner to go win that golf tournament, gets sick, and really never quite recovered. So it's good to see, like you said, his legs to be underneath him, because really this is a golf course. When you look at the top of the leaderboard, it's no surprise really to see the names that I see: Davis Thompson, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Oberg. These are all guys consistently really inside the top 10 of the off the tee stats year in, year out. These guys are just bona fide flushers of the golf ball, so not surprised to see that in some really challenging conditions.
Yeah, I mean, some really challenging conditions here the first couple of days. A guy that to me is a wild card, I took a flyer on him on this one, because if you're going to bet Wyndham Clark, bet him on the West Coast. And if he were to show up, the problem is you just don't know which Wyndham Clark you're going to get. But the good one, Smiley, is capable of just running away with just about everything here. And he's showing flashes once again today with a pretty decent round, putting himself in competition to be able to win this on the weekend.
Yeah, it's a golf course that should, like you said, it should suit his game. Being on the West Coast, hits it far, but you just never know what you're going to get out of Wyndham. When he has his best stuff, he's capable of taking down a Scotty Scheffler. We've seen him be able to compete with him, especially at the beginning of the year last year, is when he was really going, and it struggled as the summer went on. But I would call him maybe the most streaky putter on the PGA Tour and in the world, because when he is on, he is maybe the best putter you've ever seen. But when he's off, he's off. But this week he's got it going. When he's making those putts outside of 20, 25 feet, he's a force to be reckoned with for sure.
And of course, Rory, who knows a little something about this course here, he was 5 under through 10 holes, did give one back, actually gave 2 back there, including on the 2 par 4s there, the 12th and the 14th. He's given a couple back here, but another guy that seems to have figured some things out here. There's no way you can discount or count him out come Saturday and Sunday as well.
No, you definitely can. And I think just looking at the grand scheme of things and just the big picture with Rory McIlroy, it just feels like he's going to have such a big year. Just looking at his ball striking and just the way he's carrying himself right now, it seems like he's having to play politician every single week when he has to do a press conference. Besides that fact, and I think this is as good as Rory McIlroy has played in a very long time. I'm very bullish on him the rest of the year. I really feel like he has a capability to do what Xander Schauffele did last year, which is win multiple major championships. His specialty obviously is his ability with his driver to be able to just take down golf courses. When you look at the majors this year, I mean, Quail Hollow he's had so much success at. Augusta, theoretically, he should have a ton of success at because he likes to turn it over. So I like Rory the rest of the year, especially, I mean, maybe the end of this week he'll be able to get it done. He already won at Pebble Beach, but you just got to like the way Rory McIlroy looks to start 2025.
He looks like he's in a pretty good headspace, too, which is fantastic. Smiley, before we get you out of here, what wins this tournament? What are we looking at? 17, 16 under? What do you think gets it done?
Typically, when it comes to this golf course, when they have the rough up like this, I always felt like 12 under is the number. And if you get to 13, you probably win. Right now, we got two guys tied at 7 under. Hey, maybe Scotty Scheffler goes and gets to 16, 17 under. The only reason it gets that high is because the greens are a little on the soft side. But if you start to see him firm up at all, I expected to see right around 12. But the softness of the greens is maybe what creeps it up to that 14, 15 number that you're kind of referring to.
Should be a absolute crazy weekend on the PGA Tour as well. And if that wind kicks up, who knows? Smiley, thank you so much as always for stopping by, man. Should be a great tournament. Game Time Decisions continues after this.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Skovron, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs have a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here. Game Time Decisions on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. Want to thank Smiley Kaufman again for stopping by, talking some PGA Tour golf as the Genesis Invitational still ongoing right now. A lot of guys within a couple of strokes, including first round leader Denny McCarthy, still out on the course. Rory still out on the course. A lot still to be decided, but Scotty Scheffler in the clubhouse leading right now, 7 under par with a 5-under-67. And let's not forget, we still got plenty else going on around the world of sports this weekend. Be a good time to check in with Joe Madden, of course, and Tom Vecchio to see what kind of Sports Millions pick'em they have in store for us tonight.
Happy Friday, everyone. It's time to jump into our Sports Millions pick'ems. Now, Tom, we're going to turn to the hardwood, but let's look at college basketball today. What do you have for us?
Yeah, no more NBA for a few days. They are at the All-Star break. So as you said, let's turn to college. I'm going to UCLA versus Indiana tonight. Let's go to Kobe Johnson for UCLA Bruins, higher than 7.5 points. UCLA, they picked up some big wins as of late over Oregon, over Michigan State. He's been over this mark, 7.5 points, been over this in 6 of his last 10 games. The issue for him would be the foul trouble. As long as he can stay out of foul trouble, he has a shot at going over this. Indiana right now, they're 49th in terms of defensive efficiency when it comes to Ken Pom. So this is a good matchup for him. Just stay on the court, no fouls, and he should be able to get there.
Oh, I love that matchup. Should be a great game tonight. I'm going to turn to the matchup here between Nevada and San Jose State. Now, the first time these teams met up earlier this season, we did see Nevada pull away late in that game, going 20 for 10 in that last 8 minutes and getting a nice big win. They're rolling into San Jose State, and I do think as long as Nick Davison comes out nice and strong, they have every ability to win in this matchup. Looking at Nick Davison here, he has a point total of 16.5, and I will take that to the higher. We look at him in his last couple of games out, and in those last couple of games versus Air Force and Fresno, he was able to put up 25 points on the board in both of those. The one thing about those two teams is the same here with San Jose State. Their defense, they allow those 2-pointers to come in, and I do think he should have a really solid day. Now, when we look at him versus San Jose State, he really has excelled. In his last 6 games versus them, he's averaged right on 17 points, 8.7 rebounds. I think he's in for a big night here. The San Jose State Spartans know they have to slow him down. I just don't think they're able to, Tom. So I'll take Nick Davison higher than 16.5 points.
We have college tonight. We'll start off next week with some college as NBA is still on break, and then we'll roll back into some hockey once that gets going the following week.
Yeah, it should be great. So you guys make sure you join us here next week for more Sports Millions Pick'ems.
All right, we appreciate it as always, but don't forget, if Pick'em is not for you, don't forget about the Sports Millions Blitz'em.
Enjoy Sport Millions Pick'ems, but hey, making picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over to Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/blitz'em.
All right, good stuff here. We've got plenty going on here tonight. College basketball top of mind. Again, not a ton of games, but a lot of very intriguing games. And, of course, our focus for UCLA and Indiana. Can Indiana build some momentum off of that unbelievable upset win on the road against, of all teams, Michigan State, as they stormed back in that game, denying Coach Tom Izzo the opportunity to be one of the winningest coaches in college basketball, 71-67. Can they do it against a UCLA team that had been red hot right up until the point they had to travel outside of the Pacific and Mountain time zones? Because when they travel east, they have yet to win a game here. So they did lose a close one against Illinois a couple of nights ago. They've stayed in the Central time zone. Maybe tonight is the night that they get back in the win column here. So that, I think, is going to be the game of the night. Will Indiana rally around Coach Woodson, or will UCLA finally get that win in a couple of time zones east? We'll talk much more about it as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can't take Boston at minus 110. I don't see the value in it, right? You're getting minus money. If Boston were to turn around and become even money or a plus 105 or plus 110, yeah, I can understand you want to take that. So because of the value at 5.5 to 1, I got to like the Knicks and their chances of coming out of the East.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on Sport.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we're looking forward to a little appetizer portion of what is going to be a absolutely monster college basketball slate tomorrow. As for just the 16th time, it's hard to believe that it just has not happened that much where we're going to have a number 1 versus number 2 going head-to-head in a regular season, and they're in the same conference. And that, of course, is Alabama and Auburn. St. John's with a huge game against Creighton in the Big East. And don't even get me started on Houston taking on Arizona in the Big 12. A lot is going to be determined this weekend in college hoops, but we got a pretty good slate of games here tonight, and who better to break down Mount St. Mary's than our good friend Colby Dant in the house here, who, if anybody even knows where Mount St. Mary's is, it's definitely Colby. But we do have a interesting one, Colby, tonight, 8 o'clock, UCLA and Indiana. UCLA lost a tough one against Illinois last time out, but I mean, if we're being serious here, at some point they're going to have to win a game in the Eastern and Central time zone, aren't they? The good news is they've been there. They're not having to travel a whole lot, so maybe they get assimilated to the time zone. But the big question is, can Indiana get a repeat performance and build off of that Michigan State upset? That's really what it comes down to. Who do you believe in this spot?
Yeah, I like the Bruins. I think, Indiana just got up for that one game. We'll see. I mean, they're a super talented team, but if you've been following these trends, it hasn't really happened to UCLA, but for a lot of these teams going, whether it's ACC teams like Cal and Stanford or SMU or the other side of that, the teams coming west or in the Big Ten. So the second game is the game you want. Stanford lost to Wake. Beat UNC at UNC the second game. Virginia Tech was able to beat Cal in Berkeley the second game. I think Purdue went into Oregon and beat them in Eugene the second game. The second game has been the one that's standing out to me. So I think UCLA is actually the better team here. I think they're the better coach team. It's fascinating, though, because if Indiana does drop into that zone, we saw them do against Michigan State, in a way.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Syracuse with Boeheim, where they go into that zone. If they can, the question is, are they smart enough to stay in that thing? Because if so, they're a super talented team. But I like UCLA to go in there. I think they're the actual better coach team with more to gain here. You got to wonder where the locker room is, even after a big win with Indiana, with Woodson on the way out. There's talking about Brad Stevens out there. I see tons of tweets about, Brad Stevens. So you wonder where the locker room is. Ballo's been suspended for going to the nightclub, so I'm going to take UCLA in the culture, because I will say this: Mick Cronin has them looking a lot better ever since he went on those lighten the players up a little bit with they don't want to be here. We've already seen the Statue of Liberty 3 times, something like that. Give me UCLA to get it done.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think that Indiana can replicate, although tough at home. It's tough for me to think they can replicate what they just did at Michigan State. And I think styles make fights, and I just don't think they're going to be able to do exactly what they did against Michigan State, against Mick Cronin and UCLA. I'm going to go to another late game on the West Coast by you, my man, because I find this fascinating. All San Jose State has done this year is make people an awful lot of money and cover games. They're taking on Nevada, and wouldn't you know it, they are getting points at home. I think this is 7.5 up to 8. So the money keeps coming in on Nevada, and yet we're talking about a San Jose State team that is now 9-2 against the number at home, 11-2-1 against the number in conference play, and nobody gives them any credit. So are we crazy to go against this kind of streak with them, or is Nevada the right side here?
San Jose State's been a darling for me this year. I was on them money line against New Mexico when they were double-digit dogs. But I was at Mountain West Media Days, and I got a chance to sit down with head coach Tim Miles, and he thought this year's team was way more athletic than the previous 2 years, despite losing their star point guard to Boise in the portal. Here's the problem, though, is they have injuries right now. Udunje, who's one of their best players, is a game-time decision. Same with Will McClendon. I think the line is reflecting that they're not going to play, personally, because Nevada's been terrible this year. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Nevada, I was at Mountain West Media Days. I was convinced they were the best actual roster in the Mountain West this year. They are just 2-5 on the road, and really they've gotten fortunate even in those 2 wins. They needed overtime to beat Fresno at Fresno, but I kind of think they're coming into form here. And with San Jose State probably not going to have some of those. I would be surprised if both played, but so I'm gonna lay the points with Nevada. I think they are the most talented roster. They just haven't been cohesive. And Steve Alford, we saw this at UCLA, we saw this at Iowa, where he just can't get, for whatever reason, the team to play together. But I do think here, I don't think San Jose State has much depth. I think that's a weakness of the team. You get those injuries. I'm going to ride Nevada minus the points here.
Yeah, listen, it opened up 5.5, and I'm seeing 8s now. So you're right. They're betting this as if they're playing with 4 guys here, San Jose State, which they might very well have to. But you're right. Nevada, unlike San Jose State, has just absolutely destroyed bankrolls for people expecting Alfred and this team to be better than what they were. Speaking of, how would you like to be a player at Green Bay right now and having Doug Gottlieb as your head coach, Kobe? How would that work out? And the sad part is, as terrible as they are, and as I have no idea who thought hiring him was good, the numbers speak for itself. But can we trust that somebody's betting them? Northern Kentucky is not increasing its being a favorite. They're on the road. Is this a game that Green Bay can actually win? Is that what we're thinking here?
I mean, you got to pay attention to these lines. It was Sam Houston State yesterday. We wrote it, and the line made no sense. They were dead last in the CUSA. These lines are telling you something. They're telling you something right here. You look at Northern Kentucky. Okay, they're not as good as normal, but they're still a solid team. They beat the top-ranked team in the conference, Cleveland State, back on February 5th by 10. They lost to Robert Morris, who's in second place in a one-possession game pretty much the game after. And then you have 2-23 Green Bay, who's lost 21 straight games. Exactly. What? Is it just a 6-point spread, 6.5-point spread? I'm all over Green Bay because this doesn't make any sense. I put this number in the numbers we make, and I'm like, this is spitting out at 15.5. What is this number? I'm paying attention to it. Give me Green Bay. I think I might even sprinkle the money line because it doesn't make any sense.
I am with you here, man. Scratching my head to say the least. Looking ahead to tomorrow, number 1 versus number 2, Bama versus Auburn in Alabama. What are we doing with this game here?
Yeah, first time ever in the SEC that number 1 versus number 2. I think that you're going to see this matchup twice in the next 2 weeks. I like the home team in each scenario here. Alabama's more of a veteran team than Auburn, and the fact they play at that crazy pace, number 1 in the nation, it's going to be interesting because Auburn has the number 1 offense, but I just think the crowd behind them, the momentum behind them, and the way that Alabama can rebound the ball, specifically on the offensive glass, but they're number 2 in the nation in rebounding. I think Bama gets it done at home.
I'm with you. I think the home teams are the way to look with them, and I couldn't imagine sweating out an under in any way, shape, or form in that game, and that totals up to 171.5. Colby, always a pleasure, man. We'll see you apparently later for a little in-game live. We'll have more Game Time Decisions when we get back here on the grid.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by, as we do have a light slate in college basketball here tonight, but a absolutely monster slate coming up this weekend. And of course, the start of All-Star Weekend in the NBA. That's getting ready to get underway. The Rising Stars competition will take center stage tonight. And then, of course, the three-point contest, slam dunk and skills challenge on tap for tomorrow, leading into All-Star Sunday. And I don't know, there's the whole thing is a absolute convoluted mess. If you can follow it along, we'll try to figure out a couple of ways to approach it. But I quite honestly think most people are going to tune in Sunday and be like, why are there 9 uniforms? Why are there 5? Like, what are we doing here? But that's the NBA, unlike the NHL, who, by the way, has finally figured out how to gain some interest and not call it a all-star game. They call it the Four Nations Face-Off. And quite honestly, a couple of games into it, pretty exciting stuff as we welcome in Joe Madden here. And Joe, I got to tell you, I will take this over an all-star game any day of the week here. I'm watching Team USA last night against Finland. That was good right up until, of course, right around the halfway point of the second period. And then from that point on, Team USA figured it out. But what a game we got coming up tomorrow between Team USA and Team Canada. But what do you think? Would you rather an all-star or a game, or do you like what we're getting now here with this?
Oh, I absolutely love what we're getting now, Joe. You look at the Four Nation face-off and the superstar power we have out there. Everyone's giving it their absolute best, and these teams are competing at such a high level that it's great to see. So Team USA was getting that huge win last night. You had the Kachuk brothers both doubling up on goals, and they did earn the 3 points because they got the regulation win over Finland. And then we saw that crazy game with Canada and Sweden. And I tell you, Canada's power play is so elite. They were able to come out, score right away, but allowed Sweden to get back in that game. They're luckily able to pull off the overtime win. So they did earn 2 points. So Sweden got the overtime loss, earning 1. So everyone's on the board except for Finland right now after the first round between those guys.
Yeah, it's been impressive here. It really has. And of course, it's I don't know how the NBA can incorporate something like this, but I think if they did and made it more about a, national pride for some of these guys, we'd have a really good weekend of basketball instead of whatever that is they're about to give us on Sunday. But let's talk about, they were the 2 favorites, right? Team USA, Team Canada, 2 favorites, well-deserved going into this. I still can't figure out why Canada can't find a goalie, but what gives in this, Joe? What are we looking at here tomorrow?
Right. I hear you on Canada not being able to find a goalie. Canada always claims it is our game, not the U.S.'s game, and that struggle with the goaltending. So Jordan Binnington should be in goal tomorrow versus Connor Hellebuck. There's no doubt that the U.S. has the better and stronger goaltending there, but I do think Canada can come out and compete here with Team USA. Now, Team USA, I've said from the very beginning, this is the most complete team, in my opinion, because they do have the goaltending with Connor Hellebuck, and then we look at their defense. They have that defensive prowess out there that is able to shut down opponents. And then the forwards on this team are so elite. But they're looking at Team Canada and that power play and how strong it's clicking. If Jordan Binnington can look like he did in the third period versus Sweden, I do think we have every opportunity for this to be a tight battle between these two. Now, I know the star power on both sides, so it's really hard to say, look, we're going to take this under 6.5. But Joe, that's where I have to go. I do think both of these blue lines are going to be playing so strong. We're going to spend a lot of time in that neutral zone, and goaltending is really going to stand on their heads. So give me the under 6.5 between Team USA and Team Canada. I do think, though, you look at Connor McDavid to come out nice and strong here for Team Canada. You also look at Sidney Crosby. I parlayed both of them for a point together. When they're parlayed together, it's coming in at plus 109. So I think it's a great way. And then Sidney Crosby, I won't take him for the goal, but I will take Connor McDavid for the goal at plus 210, Joe.
Yeah, it's so funny, Joe, when I looked it up, it's the 20th time in men's hockey history that Team Canada and Team USA, the best of the best, right, that we have, are going at it, which is kind of crazy between the World Cup and the Olympics, right, the Canada Cup. It doesn't happen a ton, but 14-4-1. Canada has dominated this matchup here. It feels like this is a lot closer than it's probably been in years past, though.
Oh, I absolutely think so. And you look at Canada after playing Sweden, they really got battle tested in that game. Sweden was able to really fight back and push it to OT. So you're going to have a Canada team prepared. And then nothing against Finland. There are some elite players on Finland, but this is definitely the weaker of the four teams. That blue line you can't trust out there for Finland, least experience. So you look at Team USA, and yes, they got an incredible win. I'm not taking anything back from them. I love the style of play they came out with, but they didn't face the competition that Canada faced in the first one. So I do think Canada has every opportunity of pulling this off. It's a pick 'em on either side, Joe, -110. I think this will be a great live betting opportunity when one of these teams does go down, coming back in on the underdog with that plus money.
It's interesting because, in the NBA, they don't believe in defense, right? I'm wondering, are goals going to be hard to come by because guys are going to take this serious with their the pride in the end? Something tells me these guys aren't letting anybody just get free shots in front of their net.
No, absolutely not. I really do think defense will absolutely come out so strong in this one. Now, there is talks. Cale Makar didn't hit the ice today for Team Canada with an illness. So hopefully there's not illness going around. You guys, if we start to see more of these players dropping like flies, and you definitely want to look at Team USA, we will see line movement if that is the case. But I do think defense comes out so strong in this one, Joe. They're going to battle this one out. And yeah, it's going to be great. Finland and Sweden, though, will be an interesting matchup between those two as well.
Also, yeah, still some hockey to go here. It should be a great one tomorrow, but we do have plenty of great college basketball on tap. We'll talk about some of those games when Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs have a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's is offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we get ready to wrap up this hour together. Joe Madden back here with us because, well, we've got some college basketball tonight. We got a great college basketball weekend in addition to what is going to be a tremendous hockey game tomorrow between Team USA and Team Canada. But, Joe, looking at the slate of games here tonight, is there a game or two that stuck out to you the most that you like?
Yeah, there's definitely three that I have circled here tonight, Joe. I do think there's a couple ways to jump into some of these. Firstly, Fairfield versus St. Peter's. Now, I'm looking at St. Peter's, and I do trust in their defense to really lock down Fairfield here. We know they've had those struggles offensively, and this isn't just a good offense out there. We got a total 131, and this is dropped. It was right around 133, 134 and a half on opening, but I do think it's still not low enough. I'm looking for a max of 128 points there, so I'm taking that one under the 134 and a half. I'm expecting a slower game between these two. And then the 8 p.m. Eastern drop there between UCLA and Indiana. I'm looking for UCLA to come out and get the win. We know they need that bounce back after losing to Illinois in their last game out. This team had been rolling hot, winning their last 7. You know, this team is weaker against the deep ball here, but we look at Indiana. This team just really can't hit those balls from deep. So I do think UCLA can pull it out. I'm going to take the money line, Joe, though, because I'm a little nervous laying the 1.5, even though it's not many points out here. We're getting that money line at minus 128, and I feel and actually it's dropped to minus 120. So I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable with that. And then lastly, Nevada versus San Jose State. I think the spread is just too much. We're getting 7.5 points here with San Jose State at home. Sign me up all day. I actually think we could see an upset in this one. Like, I know Nevada can come out nice and strong. I think San Jose State's going to push their defense and make them play a little bit faster than they would like to out here on the court. Now, I do like Nick Davidson here for Nevada, and I do think he's going to have a strong game. But when we look at the last time these teams played, it was a very tight game until, that last 7-8 minutes of the game where Nevada, the Wolfpack, they just pulled away. They went on a streak. They went 20-10 that San Jose was able to put up. So they pulled away and got the win after it was just, sitting a 1-point game for the majority of it out there. So I do think San Jose State can keep it tight in this one. It should be a good game out there on the hardwood.
Yeah, listen, all they have done is cover games, San Jose State, and they've done it. They're always a dog and a big dog, and they don't go away, especially at home. I'm with you on that one for sure. And when you look at some of these monster games coming up this weekend, I mean, number 1 versus number 2, Auburn and Alabama, Joe. It doesn't happen it's never happened in the SEC, and yet that's exactly what we're going to get with a total of 171.5. Are you taking the under?
No, I can't touch the under in this one, Joe. It's
No.
high for a reason. Let's go over 171.5 all day long, right?
I'm with you. 2 of the best high-octane offenses that are really starting to hit their stride. And I can't imagine sitting there being like, oh, please, no more buckets. You got to be kidding me. There are going to be points left and right in that game. I, for one, am looking so very forward to it. Have you bothered to figure out how any of this is working in the NBA on Sunday's game? There's like 3 teams. There's 3 uniforms. There's like the floor is there. Why can't the NBA do what the NHL does, Joe, and make it very simple, right? It would be huge if you had, Team USA, Team Canada. It's not like they don't have the players, right? France, can't we just put a nations thing together for an all-star weekend?
Well, we absolutely should be able to because we're able to do it for the Olympics. So yes, please, let's have a 4 nations out there in the NBA because I tell you, 4 nations in hockey is leaps and bounds above the all-star that they had last year. So I'm so happy to see it.
Even if you wanted to do, give me a Team North America, Team Europe. Just give me anything that might mean something as opposed to whatever this is we're going to get on Sunday, which I have a feeling, Joe, is going to be a absolute ratings disaster here. And maybe, just maybe, that's when, the Adam Silver and the NBA would be like, all right, you know what, NHL, not a bad idea. Make it all about national pride and maybe that will work it out. Joe, as always, we appreciate the time. Good luck with those plays here tonight. We'll enjoy that hockey game tomorrow, and we've got another hour together, so come back and join us. Game Time Decisions here on the Grid.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn, we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
But if it ends up being 1 versus 2, which seems likely because the Cavs had a 5.5 game lead over Boston, the Celtics 3 games clear of the New York Knicks.
They're not unstoppable, not running away with everything, but for them to blow a 5.5 game lead on the backstretch in the NBA, already being a quality team outside of disastrous injuries, I don't buy that at this time.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you as, well, here we are, right smack in the middle of the month of February. We passed the torch from the NFL and college football. Now we've got plenty of college basketball. We do have a all-star break here in both the NHL of sorts with their 4 nation face-off, which has actually proven to be much better than any sort of all-star game weekend that we might have gotten in the NHL. And then, of course, nobody can quite understand exactly the format of the NBA all-star weekend, but we're going to give it the old college try at some point and see if we can't come up with a couple of bets. But the good news is that we still have the PGA Tour, and their swing is in full effect as we're ramping up to the first major in Augusta here within the month or so. And right now, shocker, and I hope you folks are sitting down, Scotty Scheffler is atop the leaderboard at the Genesis right now at Torrey Pines. And if anybody is blown away by that fact, it is without a doubt our good friend Brady Cannon, who, I didn't mean to, I know it's shocking, Brady. I'm hoping you're sitting down here. That Scotty Scheffler has shaken the rust off, apparently, and fires a 5 under, and he sits atop the leaderboard now after 2 rounds at the Genesis. Just shocking.
How about this guy? I mean, it took him all of 2 weeks to, overcome the hand injury and just get right back into the groove where he left off in 2024. Of course, the last time we saw him was the Hero World Challenge in early December in the Bahamas. He won that event. His odds to win that event were plus 225. He's lower than that right now. we're not even complete with 2 rounds. And by the way, he's atop the leaderboard, but he's not in first place. Davis Thompson is actually a stroke ahead of him at 8 under par. Scotty 1 back at 7 under par. Then Rory McIlroy just tapped in for birdie, hit it to about 2 feet. He tapped in to get to 5 under par. Ludwig Oberg at 4 under, 4 shots back. So, I mean, all the stars are out here. But Scotty, my goodness, he doesn't even play this course that often. I think the only time he's been here for a Farmers Insurance Open. I'm not positive. I know he was here for the 2021 U.S. Open, but he doesn't play this track all that often. He typically gets his season started at like Phoenix, and then he skips this event, and then he goes to the, kick off the Florida swing out in your neck of the woods. But boy, I mean, it just speaks to how good this guy is. Clearly, once again, we turned the calendar, but no switch in who the undisputed number 1 player in the world is. But that being said, Joe, I don't want to bet him at even money right now. I mean, there's 36 holes left here, and he's been shaky off the tee. The approach play is really good. Strokes gained approach, he's 10th in this field, and putting, he's 7th. But off the tee, 31st, and driving accuracy, 54th. I mean, he is way into the bottom half of this field as far as driving accuracy. So that's not real. I tell you, the guy I'd be putting money on right now is Davis Thompson, who's just been a model of consistency. You can get him in the neighborhood of 5-1. Strokes gained off the tee, he's 4th. Strokes gained approach, he's 2nd. And strokes gained putting, he's 12th. I mean, he's just lighting it up right now. And everybody's looking at the stars, right? This round's going to finish up, and all the bettors are going to run to the window, and they're going to play Scotty, and they're going to play Rory, and whoever. Half the people don't know who Davis Thompson is. I think you can probably get some pretty darn good value on him.
Yeah, I jumped in on Denny McCarthy for that same reasoning this morning as well, and he just eagled, I believe, the par 5 on the front on the 6th hole. Listen, the guy is not in the class of the Abergs as far as hitting the ball far. But talk to me, Brady. When it comes to putting on these greens in these conditions, there isn't a better guy with the flat stick than Denny McCarthy. And boy, oh boy, here he is, 5 under par right now. He's worked it back. Going to be a couple of strokes off the lead. Boy, the guys with the short game, it's going to matter come Saturday and Sunday, is it not here?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And one thing that's extremely important about playing Torrey Pines is scrambling, because you're not going to hit every green in regulation. And scrambling, the short game, Denny McCarthy doesn't even have his short game altogether in check right now. He's currently 18th in this field in scrambling, but arguably the very best putter in the world. And he is 2nd right now in this field for strokes gained putting. He is 4th for strokes gained around the green. But I worry about, he is a shorter hitter. He doesn't have the length of those guys like Scheffler and Rory and Oberg. 57th right now in strokes gained off the tee. If he can just find some more fairways, he's going to be in the conversation, because the short game is going to take him a long, long way.
Yeah, that flat stick is the great equalizer for sure. And it's so funny because I was talking to our good friend Smiley Kaufman last hour, and it just feels like we're looking at a different Rory this year, right? We already watched him win, but his demeanor, it looks like the headspace where he's in a good place right now, and he's not forcing things. I mean, he was, 6 under after 11 holes, 5 under after 11 holes. He gave a couple back, but now he's back on track, and I think he's on the par 5 18th. I mean, Rory looks very dangerous to me moving forward here.
Absolutely. Because why? Because he's Rory McIlroy. I mean, this guy can light up any golf course at any minute. That being said, right now he's about 3-1, which is obviously awful short. And, you look at what he's doing out there. He is 2nd in this field in strokes gained off the tee. No surprise there. This guy is probably the best driver of the golf ball in the world, hands down. And we saw him do that. We saw the results at Pebble Beach, where he just, beat that course to death with his driver. Putting, he's been on fire. He ranks in the top 10. Right now I'm showing 8th for strokes gained putting in this field. But The approach play, 43rd. He's in the lower half of this field as far as his iron play. So you worry about that. But, that's the question. He's Rory McIlroy. He can win anywhere, anytime, any course, any day. But do I want to take 3-1 when he doesn't look necessarily 100% with his irons? It's a tough call. I think, honestly, Joe, I'd probably take even money or so with Scotty, because you just know Scotty's probably going to find it. He's going to be there. Rory is a little bit more volatile. That's a tough one. I think Thompson is value. I think Oberg is a decent value. His putting has been lousy. He's number 1 in the field off the tee. He's number 3 in scrambling. He's 45th in putting, and he's a good putter. So if the putting comes around, he's going to be in the mix. Also, Akshay Bhatia is a guy. If you really want to go off the board and take a long bomb, he's in the neighborhood of 100-1. This guy's one of the best putters in the field as well. His approach play has been outstanding. 4th in the field with the irons, 4th in scrambling, but he can't putt, and he's a good putter like Oberg. 47th in strokes gained putting. So Thompson, Oberg, and Bhatia might be guys I would look at, but it's really hard to ignore Scotty and Rory.
Oh, unbelievable. What wins it? How many under, Brady?
It's going to get easier from here. The weather's going to get nice and sunny. The golf course is going to dry out a little bit, and the wind is going to die down. So this golf course is tough enough where guys are still going to make mistakes, but I'll say 16 under.
You heard it here. Brady, we'll see you over the weekend. As always, Game Time Decisions can...
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we have a limited slate in college hoops tonight, but a monster weekend coming up with a lot of top 25 teams getting ready to do battle. And let's face it, we've only got a couple of more weeks in college basketball before conference tournaments begin. And then, of course, Selection Sunday and March Madness will be here, which makes a game tonight very interesting when UCLA on the road taking on Indiana. And joining us, and the guy that will pass the reins to coming up top of the hour for In-Game Live, Scotty Wetzel here with us. And with just about 14 games or so here, Scotty, on the slate today, that's kind of the biggest one on the board tonight. But this weekend is going to be absolutely huge in college basketball. But take me to Indiana here. Are you a believer after the win last week against Michigan State? Or does Mick Cronin still not win a game in the Central and Eastern time zone here?
Yeah, which is kind of funny, right? That was a great Indiana win. I mean, when you read later on that they could Tom Izzo could have set the record, right? I mean, if you wanted to play a hunch, that was a classic hunch, right? Indiana all fired up. Bobby Knight. I don't even know these kids even know who Bobby Knight is realistically, right? But Indiana went on the road last time out and upset Michigan State, and yet they're only it's a 1-point game. Basically 1.5, depending on where you do your shopping on who's favored. So you would have thought I would have thought maybe Indiana would have been favored by a couple of points in this game, but that's not the case with the boys in Vegas. They got it. UCLA laying 1.5 on the road, so I'm going to stay away from that. Even though it is the classic letdown spot, but it's a Friday and it's a weird game Friday night, right? These games don't usually happen. These big time games this. I'm going to go under, Joe. 139.5. It's a typical play that we do. UCLA, not a monster under team because some of their numbers have been so low, but 14-11 under. Indiana 13-12 under, sides towards the under. Like I said, I think we're going to get a little bit of a letdown, so I think UCLA will control the play. I really think they actually win the game, but I'm more comfortable going under 139.5. 140 points, that's a big number. Let's go under on that one.
Well, listen, if UCLA would much rather make it that kind of game. Indiana, not a great shooting team by any stretch here. What did you think? Another game quietly in the Atlantic 10 here tonight. St. Louis taking on Loyola Chicago in a pretty big matchup of these two teams here. You looking at a total in this one as well?
Yeah, and they're just underway, so you can get the similar numbers. Actually up a couple of points. It's 17-13 midway through, and it's at 144.5. I'm looking at it right now. So that was basically the opening line, 141.5. Joe, St. Louis, the Billikens, the number one under team in all of college basketball. 364 teams. They are the best. 18-5 under. So they've had under 5 straight road games. Loyola of Chicago, the home team, 8-3 under their last 11 home games. I mean, it all points to an under. Watch this one be, 95-90. But trends and everything else say under. So let's go under, and you get, like I said, a 144.5. You get yourself an extra couple points.
Yeah, no, I don't hate that idea at all there, Scotty. Two teams that are not necessarily in a rush to go anywhere. What are Ohio and Kent State? Another little rivalry going on here tonight. Are you looking at an under or an over in that one?
Yeah, I was going to go. I'm going under. I will say that they're also underway. They're a little bit ahead of the pace here, so you can really get you some extra points. It's 22-14, 7.5 minutes in. So now the over-under is 158.5. It was 145.5 to start the game. I think this is going to come back to the pack. This is another game that has under written all over it to me. Kent State 15-7 under. They're one of the better under teams. They're at home. Now, Ohio's a pretty good over team. 15-7-1, but I generally side with the home team, and that's Kent State, and they're the strong under team. So I think eventually this thing slows down, and I think right now it's a pretty good in-game live play at the 159.5 you're getting right now.
I like that look a lot here. There's got to be an over on the card here tonight. Somewhere you're looking, Scotty,
Somewhere.
no?
And it's true. It's against my grain here because I generally say no one plays defense on Friday and Saturday nights, right? But we do have one over. How about let's go to the Ivy League. They just tipped off. Over 153.5 Cornell at Harvard. Cornell, the number one over team in the Ivy League, 12-5-2 over. They should have their way with Harvard. So let's go. There's your one over that I have on my ticket. 153.5 Cornell and Harvard. These Ivy League games actually do have a lot of points scored in them. You wouldn't think so, but they do.
I love that. And of course, Scotty, we've got the All-Star weekend in the NBA coming up. 3-point contest, dunk. Skills challenge, and then of course I have no idea how this is going to work on Sunday here, but is there any value in any of those spots that you're looking at here this weekend?
You know, how about Damian Lillard? He's from the San Francisco area. It's where the game is. You know, he's the defending champ. So if he won last year, he's taking it really seriously this year. So you're getting 3-1 odds on him. I think that, he's the odds-on favorite, but so you're not getting great odds, when you look at all the others. But I think he's going to come to play, if you will. And at 3-1 back in his hometown, and D. Lillard, he gets hot, but he's a perfect three-point shooter winner, right? You got to get in your streaks, and he gets in his streaks. So that's the one out of all the goofiness that kind of stood out to me.
All right, so I got to ask you here, Scotty, because I know what's coming. Actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off asking you a thing because I want you to come back here when we get back, because only you can answer me this question with a straight face, and it's regarding Major League Baseball. So I can't, because I'm already seeing the pitchers and catchers in my neck of the woods, Scotty. They are here. The fans are starting to roll in. So Major League Baseball, let's face it, we're a couple of weeks away from all of it getting going. And I want to get with a straight face. I want you deadpan to look into this camera and tell me what Major League Baseball team is going to have the most wins this year and how many you think they are going to get. But we got much more to go. College basketball this weekend. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Need help with your NFL picks? Get NFL insider knowledge from Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, with Sick Picks at Sports Injury Central. We reveal hidden injury advantages the sports books miss. Our doctors provide insights, and our algorithm tells you who to bet on. Spreads, player props, totals, in-game bets, Sick Picks covers it all. Get a free week now with promo code SportsGrid at SickScore.com.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we get ready for a huge weekend in college basketball. A lot of top 25 teams in action, including number 1 versus number 2, a battle in the Big East with St. John's and Creighton. You got to love that. Not to mention the Big 12 in full effect with Houston getting ready to take on a big game against Arizona, who, again, newest member of the Big 12, those two teams there. And a lot of folks feel that Houston could very well be on their way to a national championship this year. Still a lot to be determined there, but let's not forget, while the NBA has an all-star weekend, the NHL right now, what is essentially their all-star weekend. You know, in a couple of weeks, Major League Baseball will be back top of mind, and Scotty Wetzel joining us here again. And you got to love it, Scotty. You know, down here in the South Florida area, already seeing the Cardinals and the Marlins fans and the Nationals and the Astros. I was just telling you, trying to get a spring training ticket to see the Mets is virtually impossible right now. And yet, I'm looking at win totals, especially in the National League, and the best that I can see, Scotty, is that the Mets are the third, maybe fourth best team in the National League here. I don't even think they're the best team in their own division. I might be crazy here, but don't tell Met fans that, Scotty, because they're buying season ticket. They're buying any ticket they can because Juan Soto is apparently also going to pitch. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's the Dodgers. The Dodgers have the guy that can hit 50 home runs and strike out 200 guys. What do you think of those Dodgers this year, Scotty?
I tell you, John, I'm going to go all in on them. I really am. You know, FanDuel, DraftKings, they offer a prop. Will they set the Major League record? 117 wins. And we'll start at the very top, right? FanDuel's offering that DraftKings, I was told, was offering it at 10-1. FanDuel's got it at a modest 790, but 117 wins they need. Can they get 117, right? I mean, that's 45 losses. That's not a lot of losses. I get that. But if they're motivated to play, if there's some other team in the National League or maybe even in the American League that's going to force them to win games in September so they can have home field advantage, you know, either it's World Series or National League Championship Series, I think they could do it, Joe. I really do. You know, Arizona should be halfway decent in their division. San Diego should be halfway decent, but San Fran stinks. Colorado stinks. The entire NL Central is awful, mediocre at best, right? And the NL East, you know, pretty good with the Mets, Phillies, and Braves, but there's not a whole lot there that's going to stop them. I mean, that lineup is so good. So, you know what? Whether it's 10-1 or almost 8-1 on FanDuel, I'm going to go plus 117. They're even offering you plus 195 on FanDuel if they get 110 wins. So even if you don't want to go that high, they're still giving you that money. And then their overall number, Joe, is 104.5. I mean, they've hit that 3 of the last 5 seasons. So I don't know why they only had 98 last year. I get that, but every injury in the world happened to them last year. They still obviously won the World Series and everything. You're telling me they're not going to get 105 wins with that team? They're going to lose. They would have to lose 58 times. I don't think it's happening. I mean, this team is loaded. We're not going to appreciate this until we see them every single day. So we start doing pitching matchups, you know, 3-game series against, you know, pick a team, Colorado. And it's like the Dodgers are going to be favored 2.5, 3-1 in nearly every single game. I mean, it's nuts if these guys hit, as we say, you know, at the back of their bubblegum card. I mean, I see them really challenging that win, that 117 wins. I really do.
I mean, listen, the only team that could beat them is really themselves at this point. They got to stay healthy, of course. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Ohtani from a pitching perspective here. I mean, the guy is just, imagine if he just spent his entire career as a DH and doing nothing but hitting. My goodness, what that would be like here. But they have all the firepower in the world. That's coming out of the National League. In the American League, is it the Yankees to lose again? Is anybody going to step in the way of the Yankees this year?
Yeah, you know, it's almost the Yankees by default, right? You know, Baltimore's falling apart, it seems. Detroit was going after Bregman. They actually offered him more money apparently than the Red Sox did, but over more years.
Crazy.
So they didn't get him. So they didn't really do anything. So who else really is? I mean, the American League is like so bad. Houston's come back into the pack. The Astros would be the one, but they're not the Houston Astros winning these World Series. Houston Astros, they're still halfway decent. They put some pegs in there, but I actually like the Stankies, as I like to call them, Joe, the moves they made versus if it was bringing all those guys in that they did versus re-signing Juan Soto. I prefer the Yankees now with Goldschmidt and everybody. That lineup is good. I mean, pitching staff is pretty good. Yeah, it's sad to say we're looking at a rematch here. Dodgers Yankees.
Scotty Wetzel, we'll see you in game live, top of the hour. Game Time Decisions continues.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes, end of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Friday to you as we get ready for the weekend, a all-star weekend, as the NBA on a little bit of a reprieve here, but they are in the Bay Area at the Chase Center in San Francisco, and the fun is underway with the Rising Stars Challenge, getting ready to take center stage here right around 9 o'clock Eastern time. They'll kick it off. That's always fun, as obviously the future of the NBA will be on display here tonight with 4 teams doing battle. And of course, with the way that it is set up this year, it's not one all-star game on Sunday. It is going to be set up as a mini tournament of sorts. And really, whoever ends up winning this Rising Stars Challenge will have an opportunity to compete against the big boys there and those teams on the weekend. So it's a little bit different than what we have seen in years past. But what's not changed, of course, the dunk contest and the three-point shootout, all getting ready to take center stage tomorrow. And I kind of like the skills challenge from a year ago. I thought that was kind of cool, the whole 2-person teammates. We saw Indiana with Pascal Siakam and Halliburton take the crown last year. This year, you've got some interesting combinations here. You got Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama for Team Spurs. You got Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley for Team Cavs. The Warriors are sending out Moses Moody and Draymond Green. And the Rooks with Zachariah Richeche and Alexander Sarr, the two big rookies from, number one, number two pick, will be the center stage. So 4 on the skills challenge there. And boy, oh boy, I mean, it's just going to be fun to see old school, new school, Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama out there, seeing if they can't put it together. But when you consider he's got to go up the likes of Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, you got to wonder if there's enough left in the tank. But all eyes are going to be on that slam dunk competition where Mac McClung is looking to do something that's only been done one time before. And actually, it's never been done a three-peat 3 years in a row. Nate Robinson has won the dunk competition 3 times in his career, but they were not back-to-back-to-back. Max McClung, who, again, G League player, the NBA made exceptions for him to actually be able to defend his title a year ago. He's with the Orlando Magic, but he's on a 2-way contract, so he's playing in the G League right now. But he'll have an opportunity to do something that we have not seen. A guy go, 3 in a row. And you got to ask yourself, what else can he do? I mean, last year he jumped over Shaquille O'Neal, and that was it. He's the only guy, I think, to go back-to-back with perfect 50-point scores. And when you're 6'2" and jumping over, Shaquille O'Neal's and dunking the ball, it's going to look a lot more impressive than anybody 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" dunking the ball. It's just a fact. Don't forget, Nate Robinson was only about 5'11", 6 foot himself. So that's why it looks pretty impressive. But a lot of eyes are going to be on Stephen Castleton, that also, who both, I believe, was in the 2023 McDonald's High School Dunk Contest. There's a lot of tape on him and Buzelis, the rookie from Chicago. And these two guys are really athletic and really impressive. In fact, Stephen Castle, coming out of Portland, has been rumored to be in the lead for the Rookie of the Year, which is saying a lot because we've got some pretty impressive names there that you'll have a chance to see beginning tonight in the Rising Stars Challenge. And then, of course, that'll give way to Damian Lillard. And will he, at plus $3, plus $3.50, will he be able to dominate the three-point contest like he has done over the last 2 years? I took a shot there with my boy Tyler Hero simply because, well, Miami's not very good at anything else. So let's hope Tyler Hero represents the Miami Heat in a pretty good way. I'm laughing at Cade Cunningham being on this list, and for what reason, I have absolutely no idea, given the fact that Cade Cunningham at 12-1. Why is Malik Beasley, his teammate, not here, given the fact that he is, well, I don't know, second in the NBA in three-point shots made this year? I'm just kind of curious why they're throwing Cade Cunningham, who at times, well, can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. So it's interesting that Malik Beasley not here, but Cade Cunningham ready to go, who is having an MVP-style year. This will all give way into Sunday, and we told you about those teams and the captains, right? Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, James Harden, Jaylen Brown, and Kyrie Irving, who is in for Anthony Davis. That is your favorite. Shaquille's OGs. I mean, LeBron, Steph, Tatum, Durant, Lillard, Harden, Brown, and Kyrie. Yeah, no wonder why they're even money. But somebody tell me how Chuck stars here with Jokic, SGA, Wembanyama, Pascal Siakam, Albert Sengun, Karl Anthony Towns, and, oh, yeah, Trae Young, who's in for Giannis, who's hurt. That's a pretty darn good team as well. And anytime I can get the Joker and Wembanyama, exactly who is stopping those two guys on any of these other teams? You do have Kenny's young stars. I have no idea why Jalen Brunson is considered a young star, but Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Jaren Jackson Jr., Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland, Tyler Hero, Evan Mobley, and Jalen Williams. Certainly energetic, and I know a lot of people that are looking at Team Kenny for Sunday and saying, listen, these are a lot of young guys. They would love nothing more than to go there and dominate the All-Star weekend here. And, well, they'll have an opportunity. They certainly have the shooting. And then, of course, the Rising Stars team, whoever ends up coming out tonight as the winner, that team will be able to compete on Sunday against the others. And that's Team Candace at 9-1. Maybe not a bad idea, because I can't think of anybody that will be more motivated to show out and show off on Sunday than the Rising Stars, who many of their players might be G League guys, who don't have solidified careers in the NBA. I mean, how much effort are we really going to get from LeBron James, Steph Curry, James Harden, Dame Lillard, Kevin Durant? Are they really going to sell out to win anything this weekend? So it's not a bad angle to look at maybe some of those bigger numbers with the younger guys who have not been here and done this before and could very well take it to the old guard. So it should be interesting to see how it all plays out on Sunday, but totally different format this year. Do not be shocked when you turn the TV on and you've got what looks to be 4 different uniforms, 4 different teams all battling with a first 1 to 40 and advancing. It's a little strange, but we'll see. I don't want to stick a fork in it before we get there, but let's see how it delivers. Something tells me this could be an absolute ratings nightmare for the NBA, but it's a good thing we got college hoops and plenty of it. Some of the biggest games of the year taking center stage tomorrow. We'll talk about a few of them as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can't take Boston at minus 110. I don't see the value in it, right? You're getting minus money. If Boston were to turn around and become even money or a plus 105 or plus 110, yeah, I can understand you want to take that. So because of the value at 5.5 to 1, I got to like the Knicks and their chances of coming out of the East.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins. St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night, but it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day to you and yours as, boy, oh boy, have we got some amazing college basketball in store this weekend. So, fellas, let me just suggest that whatever it is tonight you have to do, get it done. Don't put it off till tomorrow because there is nothing that is going to be more must watch than number 1 versus number 2 tomorrow, a possible Final Four preview, and let's face it, likely the games of the year, all taking center stage tomorrow, and it'll begin with Alabama taking on Auburn as number 1 versus 2. Now, again, I mentioned earlier, the NCAA tournament expanded to 64 teams back in 1984 and 85. Since then, there has only been 16 regular seeding meetings between the top 2 teams in the country. The most recent came back in 2021, where Gonzaga absolutely destroyed number 2 UCLA by 20 points. There's only been 8 times that those matchups came between teams from the same conference. And by the way, this is the first time it's happening for the SEC. We saw the ACC happen a couple of times, but we have never seen the SEC put number 1 versus number 2 at this point in the season in college basketball history. And by the way, if history tells us anything, the teams that usually do meet at this point, number 1 versus number 2, yeah, they usually end up doing pretty well. In fact, many of those teams, or at least one of those teams, to the Elite 8 and Final Four. There's never been one that's actually advanced all the way and won the national championship. But something tells me, with the way the game is here today, you could be looking at a national champion in one of these teams coming up here. So I am looking very forward to this, expecting points galore, given the fact that this is the number 1 and number 2 ranked team in offensive efficiency. We are also seeing Nate Oates and Alabama. Many people forget how Alabama, what a run they made last year, and they didn't have half the amount of shooters that they have this year. Neither team is necessarily known for great defense. We've seen Alabama be able to play defense, but quite honestly, the way that Auburn and Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates in Alabama, they play, they're going to knock threes down. They're going to shoot you out of the gym. Alabama started the season shooting just 31% from 3. They were actually, after the first month and a half of the season, they were 246th nationally in three-point shooting. Boy, has that changed, because now they're hitting nearly 40% of their threes, and they've risen all the way up to 40th best in the country, and they got room to grow. This is a team that is absolutely on fire, and so is Auburn. These two teams have a very, very interesting path to not only the SEC championship, but number 1 seeds here could very well be at stake when these two teams play tomorrow. 171.5. I can't sweat out an under. I think it's going to be an epic battle. I also think St. John's, who has unfortunately lost a terrible game to Villanova the last time out this week. They had a 10-game winning streak, and Rick Pitino must have lost his mind when, at the end of it all, they ended up taking more three-point shots than two-point shots in the game, which is the first time in the Rick Pitino era we have ever seen that, especially given the fact that St. John's, guys, 350th. They are the second worst three-point shooting team in the country. I mean, awful. And yet, they somehow managed 37 three-point attempts, and that is why they ended up losing that game. But now they're taking on Creighton, who, if they win this game in Madison Square Garden, well, Creighton is the team to beat coming out of the Big East. If they win, like they did the first time these two teams played, it would put them tied for the Big East title with them. And if St. John's wins, plus the tiebreaker, St. John's would create a little bit of separation here. Creighton also coming off a loss to UConn on Tuesday. They had a 9-game winning streak. So Madison Square Garden tomorrow is going to be electric because the winner of that game will pretty much have the leg up in what is going to be a very interesting Big East battle down the stretch. No two teams tomorrow that you probably want to watch more outside of Alabama and Auburn than Houston taking on Arizona, a game that will have huge ramifications for ultimately who wins the Big 12. Houston has now won 16 of its past 17 games. They lost in overtime by a point to number 12 Texas Tech a couple of weeks ago. But they have been the best team in the country in many of the publications, as far as I'm concerned, since the beginning of the year. They have been top 10 in offense and defense. And this is a team, unlike Kelvin Sampson in years past, and they've always had good teams that play by winning defense. They have never been a great offensive team in years past. They've been good. They've never been this good. This is a team that is hitting three-point shots, is offensively efficient, and is averaging more points per game than anybody else. This is a very dangerous Houston team, while you have Coach Lloyd in Arizona, who many people think this might be the worst team that he has had since taking over as head coach for Arizona. But guess what? All they do is win games too. So Arizona and Houston, this is going to be a huge battle. And ultimately, I think whoever wins this game likely will win the Big 12 regular season title and possibly the conference championship. We'll have more as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You want me to solve all this tush-push and fourth down malarkey that goes on with the officials? Here's a crazy idea. Get rid of the worst rule in the NFL, and that is forward progress. How about this? Where I knock your ass in the ground is where the ball goes, period. Let's end this whole conversation. Like, if I drop you back 4 yards, then you lost 4 yards. If we get rid of forward progress, this tush-push and everything else is taken care of. Where I put your tail on the ground is where the ball goes. End of conversation. It's the dumbest rule and the most arbitrary rule. The only thing that is a worse call in the NFL than forward progress is the punt that goes out of bounds when you watch the official walk down the sideline having absolutely no clue where that ball crossed over. All I can think of is that Price is Right game go do-de-do-de-do, do-de-do-de-do, as he's walking down the sideline, arbitrarily trying to figure out where the ball crossed over because he's got no clue.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we get ready to hand off the baton to In Game Live. Coming up straight ahead, Dave Sherapan, Scotty Wetzel will have you guys covered for the big game here tonight in college hoops, and that will be UCLA taking on Indiana. Big Ten battle with Indiana coming off the upset of the year on the road against Michigan State, trying to salvage their season as their coach, Mike Woodson, has already announced that he'll be moving on at the end of this year. We're starting to see a lot of over money come in to the market right now. Some late over money steaming the total up back to over 140 and a half. So does that favor UCLA or does that favor Indiana? I still think UCLA gets it done here tonight. I think Mick Cronin will finally get that win with this team outside of the Mountain and Pacific time zone. I think that's going to happen here tonight. Also, Nevada taking on San Jose State. That'll be your late night degenerate special there with Nevada now an 8-point favorite over San Jose State, who looks to be dealing with a couple of injuries to some key starters in that lineup. But they have been nothing short of an ATM machine, San Jose State, all year long, covering against teams better than Indiana. And yet here they are at home catching 8 points here. So I definitely think opportunity presents itself for a couple of more games coming up here a little bit later tonight. Also, don't forget, heading into tomorrow, the PGA Tour, Scotty Scheffler, 1 shot off Davis Thompson, 7 under par. Davis Thompson with a 66 today, 8 under. But right behind him, Rory McIlroy, Ludwig Aberg, Wyndham Clark. You've got some guys, you've got some really big names at the leaderboard for what could be a huge weekend in golf at Torrey Pines. Looking very forward to seeing how that all finishes. And don't forget, we got the All-Star game in the NBA. The rookies, the rising stars taking center stage tonight. 3-point contest tomorrow, as well as the slam dunk competition. Max McClung, can he get it done, Mac? Can he get it at minus 220, 230 right now? The market seems to think it's kind of a no-brainer that he will once again, for a 3rd straight year, win the dunk competition. Get him now, because I don't see how that number is going to get any better between now and when it starts tomorrow. And then, of course, Sunday with Team Chuck, Team Shaq, Team Kenny, who will win it all. I will hold off until I see what this product looks like on Sunday, but it should be fun if you're an NBA fan. Don't forget, of course, the 4 nations doing battle tomorrow as the NHL, instead of going with an all-star game, which, let's be realistic, has not been going all that well for them, decided to come up with this 4 nations face-off, and Team USA and Team Canada are doing just that tomorrow. Pick'em price, total at 6.5. I tend to think there's going to be a few less goals in this game than more, as Team USA looking for their opportunity to put their stamp on what they think is going to be a heck of a tournament and possibly a victory in that game. Team Canada has owned Team USA in these types of competitions over the years. This will be the 20th meeting. Canada, 14-4-1 over the years when they have taken on Team USA. Could this be the year that Team USA gets it rolling in the right direction? I think that's going to be an awful lot of fun. And shout out to Aaron Rodgers, who the books apparently are now taking odds on what his next team will be. And if you had the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Las Vegas Raiders, well, then you're sitting pretty good right now, because that's where the market thinks he's going. To me, I just don't see it happening with the Raiders. The team is not going anywhere. He is not getting younger. I do think it's fascinating, the idea that Pittsburgh might consider him as a better option than what they have now. 41 years old, going in and playing in the AFC North. Yikes. Don't go anywhere, though. Much more still to come. In-game live straight ahead. We'll see you again tomorrow for Game Time Decisions.